there, Ms. Coe here. This is an example from the 9C homework. So this is 9C homework number 4. Okay? So we're told that this Venn diagram summarizes the results of a survey about colds and vitamin C. Based on the diagram, is a person less likely to catch a cold if he is taking vitamin C? Justify your answer using conditional probability. Conditional probability. Explain in your own words. So we're going to compare the probability of having a cold, the probability of having a cold given that you took vitamin C, and the probability of having a cold given that you didn't take vitamin C. Okay? So let's start off with this first one. Okay? What's the probability of having a cold? Okay? So in this problem, we are going to look first at how many are in the entire survey. What's our sample size here? Okay? So we're going to add up all of these different numbers because that's what's going to tell us our total number in our sample space. Okay? So here's our handy dandy little calculator, and we're just literally going to add up those numbers. Okay? 17 plus 31. And when we add it all up, the big grand total is 279. So in our sample space, we have 279 people. Okay? So I'm going to clean this all up, and we're just going to say 279. Okay? So the next thing that we want to do is we want to say, well, how many of those people have a cold? Okay? Well, it's important to see that the people that have a cold occupy this circle, the whole circle. Now, these 17 are people that have a cold and are taking vitamin C as well, but everybody in this circle has a cold. Okay? So how many would that be that have a cold? Well, just like we did where we added everything up to get our sample space number, that's what we want to do here. So we want to add up 31 and 17, okay? And that'll give us 48 people. So for the people that have a cold, we have 48 of them, okay? 48 people that have a cold. So if we're looking at the probability of having a cold, we want to take that 48 that have a cold divided by our total number of people in our survey, which is 279. Okay? Now we're going to compare that to the probability of people having a cold given that they took vitamin C. Okay? Now as soon as we see this given, what that tells us is that the only thing we're going to look at now, the only thing that we care about are the numbers in that second category, this vitamin C category. Okay? So if we're in that given vitamin C category, that means the only thing we're looking at is these numbers. Okay? Everything else disappears. Okay? We don't look at any other number at all. Only the numbers in the vitamin C category. Okay? So how would we find the probability of someone having a cold given that we're only looking at that vitamin C category? Well, in that category, 17 of those people had a cold. And the total number in this vitamin C category is 122 plus 17. Okay? So 139 are in the vitamin C category. Oops, 139. Okay, not great there, but you get the picture. 139 people. All right, so that's how you are going to do this given there with conditional probability. 17 over 139. Okay? All right, so going back to our problem, we're going to put this 139 here. Now we want to compare this with the probability of having a cold, but you didn't take the vitamin C. Okay? So this was pretty easy to isolate, the vitamin C category. But the no vitamin C category, we need to now look at that category. Okay? But it's not quite as easily figured out. So now let's look at the people that did not take vitamin C. Okay? Well, that means that we can't consider this number. We can't consider this number. That means that one goes away. So the total number of people that did not take vitamin C, 31, these are the people that did not take vitamin C. Or we're just going to call them no C. Okay, so 31 of the people that did not take vitamin C, well, they had a cold. And then 109 did not take vitamin C, and they did not have a cold. Okay? So what's our total number here? Well, we're adding it up, right? Just like we did before. 140 is the total number in our no vitamin C category that we had to make. Okay, so 140 in that category. How many people had a cold? Well, 31 had a cold. So now let's compare all of these. Well, how do we do that? Well, I'm going to clean this up. And remember, our category had 140, but 31 of them did have a cold. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get up our calculator, and we're going to go through and we're going to just make a decimal of all of these numbers, because that's going to give us a better sense of how to compare them. Because fractions are notoriously difficult to compare. All right. Let's round to our hundredths place, or our second decimal place. So we're going to go to this second place. Then we're going to look at that third spot, and we're going to say, well, if it's 4 or under, we're going to leave that second place alone. If it's 5 or above, we'll bump it. So since it's a 2, we're going to write this simplified fraction in decimal form as 0.17. 0.17. And now we're going to compare this to the decimal we get here. So what would that be? Well, let's get our calculator back. And that would be 17 divided by 139, which is going to give us 0.12. All right, 0.12. Okay, now we're going to compare that to the decimal we get here, which is going to be 31 divided by 140, which will give us 0.22. 0.22. So now let's look and let's compare. Well, the probability of having a cold. Now, when we have a decimal here, we can change it to a percent by just moving that decimal over 2 places. Okay? So the percent of just getting a cold, that's 17%. Getting a cold, given that you took vitamin C, well, that's going to end up being 12%, or 0.12. The probability of getting a cold and you didn't take vitamin C, well, that's a whopping 22%. So, based on the diagram, is a person less likely to catch cold if he is taking vitamin C? Well, Those taking vitamin C had 12% likelihood of getting a cold. No vitamin C was 22%. Yay, vitamin C wins. Okay? And this whole set of numbers comparing the probabilities is what is going to justify our answer. All right, guys, thanks for watching.